We don't celebrate Halloween, but we will use it as an excuse to cover some frightful stories.
This is Halloween, this is Halloween.
When you think of a bad girl, who do you think of? Well, we're not talking about her today. We're talking about Heather Mack. Who is Heather Mack? Let's bring you up to speed.
After serving 7 years of a 10-year sentence in an Indonesia prison, Heather Mack was released early for good behavior.
How you feeling, Heather? What do you like to say?
The now 26-year-old was convicted of helping her then-boyfriend Tommy Schaefer kill her mother Sheila Von Wies Mack back in 2014 when she was just 19 years old. After an argument the three had in a Bali resort hotel, Schaefer beat Von Wies Mack to death, and the two stuffed her body in a suitcase and left it in a taxi outside their hotel. They wanted to split her $1.5 million estate.
What's going to happen to Heather? We're not sure.
Brian Claypool has been Mack's U.S.-based attorney for the past 5 years. The Tribune is reporting Mack was ordered to return to Chicago instead of her planned destination of L.A. It is likely she will be met at O'Hare by FBI agents.
We will vigorously fight any attempt by the U.S. government to charge Heather with a crime stemming from her mother's murder.
A former federal prosecutor says it is unlikely Mack will face additional charges in the U.S.
She was convicted by a competent jurisdiction overseas, was sentenced to 10 years, served 7, but her sentence was not too dissimilar, depending on the facts that might have happened here in the States.
Mack and Schaefer's 6-year-old daughter Stella is also heading back to the States. She had been living with a foster family in Indonesia. Mack's attorney says a guardian will be here for her when she lands, but it's unclear if Mack will ever get full custody of her daughter.
It would all come down to those components of whether or not it's safe for the child to live with someone who is just convicted of murder.
Mack's then-boyfriend, Tommy Schaefer, was also convicted. He was sentenced to 18 years in prison. He is still behind bars.
Shifting gears now, 26-year-old Heather Mack was arrested last week upon arrival home to Chicago from Indonesia, where she had been serving a prison sentence for murdering her mother. Here in the U.S., she's charged with conspiracy and obstruction of justice.
Heather Mack is back in court. She's the Oak Park woman convicted in Indonesia of helping her boyfriend kill her mother, and that was back in 2014. Mack was charged with conspiracy and obstruction of justice. She was released from an Indonesian prison back in 2021, immediately arrested again when she returned to Chicago. Now, prosecutors say Mack helped Tommy Schaefer kill Sheila Von Wies Mack and stuff the body in a suitcase. Heather Mack gave birth to her daughter Stella while in prison. The child is now with a court-approved guardian.
So now you're almost all caught up concerning Heather Mack and her upcoming trial. Really, the most recent update came about a month ago, so September 2022, via the Chicago Sun-Times. It's an article entitled "Heather Mack Set for Trial All Over Again, this time on U.S. charges in Chicago." So just to cover some of the article, it says the U.S. trial of Heather Mack, the Chicago area woman who served 7 years in an Indonesian prison in connection with her mother's overseas murder, is set to begin next summer, so that would be summer 2023, and potentially overlap the 9th anniversary of her mother's death. Mack, now 26, was released from the Indonesian prison in October 2021, so a year ago, and deported with her now 7-year-old daughter to the United States. As her flight neared O'Hare Airport in November 2021, an indictment was unsealed in U.S. District Court in Chicago, leveling charges against her here. Also charged in the indictment was Tommy Schaefer, Mack's one-time boyfriend who remains locked up overseas. The couple is charged here with conspiring to kill Sheila Von Wies Mack in a foreign country, as well as obstruction of justice. U.S. District Judge Charles Norgel on Thursday set Mack's federal trial in Chicago for July 31st, 2023. Attorneys have predicted it will last no longer than 3 weeks. The article goes on to just mention some of the other details about how Heather's mother's body was found in the suitcase in 2014, and that was in Bali. And then Mack and Schaefer, her boyfriend, were arrested the next day, and how they stood trial in Indonesia. So just covering some of the details that you've seen via the clips I showed you earlier. It's since her return to the United States, Heather has been held in Chicago's downtown Metropolitan Correction Center. A bench trial to resolve a custody dispute over her daughter kicked off earlier this week. And that's really how that article ends, and that's our update concerning Heather Mack. So for anyone interested, again, her trial is scheduled for July of 2023. Thanks for listening.